Welcome to the We Nurture podcast, where we give you the tools to help your child blossom. I'm Chinya Lu. Today on Inspirational Wednesday, I'm going to inspire you with advice that will help you create and hold boundaries for your child in kind, connected, and loving ways. This season, I'm excited that we'll also be filming Wednesday's episodes. You can watch the video version of this episode on YouTube. And to those of you already watching, welcome. Well, we all know that children need boundaries to be able to understand the importance of limits, and boundaries build trust in your child's relationship with you. Children need boundaries as they grow and develop, and when boundaries are created and held in the early years, your child will learn how to set boundaries for themselves in their later years, boundaries that will guide them and keep them safe. I'll share 3 points to think about before setting a boundary, and then later in this episode, I'll talk about important steps to take when holding a boundary. Now, boundaries work best when they are decided in advance, so you can respond rather than react. So when a behavior or situation happens and you don't have a boundary for it, it's best that you avoid being reactive by making one up on the spot. The first point to consider is stating a boundary lovingly and calmly, no matter how frustrated or upset your child is or how angry you are feeling. This then makes it possible for you to connect with your child in a way that they are more likely to listen. And you don't be surprised or overly concerned when your child gets upset, cries, or screams when you hold a boundary. This is normal and a very healthy response, and what a growing child does. Your child needs to test the boundaries you set, and by testing the boundaries, they'll come to know just how trustworthy you are when it comes to what you say, because this is a time when their trust in you either strengthens or weakens. So it's important that you follow through. Remember that boundaries can be held firmly and with kindness. Both approaches can easily exist together. The second point to consider is that when setting a boundary, make sure that you're keeping your child's age and development, in focus. When creating boundaries, really take time to think about where your child is developmentally, as well as their unique personality. When it comes to boundaries, every child doesn't respond in the same way, and sometimes different approaches are needed. Some children are sensitive and might need a soft approach when a boundary is being held. Some children have a harder time accepting a boundary, even after, they've heard it several times. Still hold the boundary. Some children will outright challenge the boundary. Plan for scenarios that will require a boundary or even 2 or 3 boundaries, depending on your child's personality and past behavior. The third point to consider is that in order for a boundary to be effective, you will need to be consistent. When boundaries aren't held consistently, this can result in you confusing your child and losing trust. Your child responds best when you are consistent. When setting or holding a boundary, stay close and be present with your child. Your presence means a lot. When you set a boundary, it's important that you are as clear as possible within yourself. Don't waffle or say to your child, okay? Because this can easily signal to them that you're not fully convinced about your decision. Young children need us to teach and model to them, appropriate ways of communicating, interacting, and expressing their feelings. Teaching your child how to do this with kindness and respect is challenging, not only for you, but for your child too. When your child wants or needs something, they will usually behave in a way that most readily, will get them a response. It might not be the response they wanted, but it gets, at your attention. They really don't think or reflect on if it is behavior that's acceptable or appropriate. What they want is an immediate response, and this is an impulsive action. So it's not surprising that young children are impulsive and lack self-control. And the reasons are really understandable when you know that the part of their brain, the frontal lobe, or sometimes referred to as the prefrontal cortex, has yet to develop. And it's interesting that research, shows that generally it's not until age 8 or 9 before children are able to control their emotions. It will still take a few more years before you're able to see significant changes in your child's ability to be less impulsive and in control of their emotions. You can use the following guidelines that I'll speak about next when holding a boundary, and you will be modeling and guiding them and supporting their development by using these steps. So there are 3 steps. Step 1, with kindness, listen and acknowledge their feelings and what they want to tell you. It's important that your child sees that you're present and listening. If your child thinks that you're not listening, or worse yet, ignoring them, then their behavior can quickly escalate. Be genuinely interested in your child's feelings and what they want to tell you. When you do this, you'll find that your child is more likely to respond positively to you. For example, you can say, "I see that you are sad and upset. You really want ice cream now. It's soon dinner time, and we can have ice cream after dinner." Step 2, calmly hold the boundary by repeating the boundary to your child, as they will most likely plead again and again. Don't feel that you need to keep saying the boundary each time your child pleads, as you don't want to end up sounding like a broken record or fall into a repetitive pattern, where your child keeps asking and you keep answering each time they ask. Both of you will get stuck. 3 or 4 times, where you repeat the boundary is really enough. You can bring the pleading to an end by saying, I hear you. I hear you. If it's a boundary that involves a behavior like throwing toys that could hurt someone or be destructive, rather than saying, "Stop that," tell your child what they can do instead. Your toy truck stays on the floor. Let's make a road for it to drive on. When you focus on unwanted behavior, it's only likely to increase. So focus on something positive they can do. For example, you can roll your ball on the floor, or let's go outside where you can throw your ball. Now, if a boundary needs to be held when it's time to leave the house, but your child wants to keep playing, you'll again want to follow steps 1 and 2. Now, in this situation, your response could be, you're upset about having to leave the house because you're having so much fun playing, but it's time to leave. Do you want to put your shoes on or your coat on first? Give them 2 choices, but then you're stating a clear forward movement. Now, step 3, connect your child, to help them when they cannot express a need. You will need to set behavioral boundaries by connecting with your child when it comes to, behaviors like hitting, biting, kicking, screaming, and tantruming. Again, follow step 1 and step 2 as you connect, and you'll need to be firmer in your response. But stay calm and kind, but be clear and firm. Now, if your child hits you or anyone else, you can say, "I will not allow you to hit." When I worked in the classroom, preschool classroom, I would then connect to a child maybe who hit or kicked, by gently holding the child's hands and saying, "Oh my, these are gentle hands. Hands are for helping, playing, and working. Let's see what your hands were trying to say. We can do that without hitting." Now, if your child bites you or anyone else, you can say, "I will not allow you to bite." For example, like if they've bit a sibling, "I will not allow you to bite your brother." A helpful way to connect with a child who bites is to say, "Biting hurts. Let's get an ice pack," or something like a cold cloth to help your brother feel better, just as an example. When we show a child how they can be helpful and how they can take a step towards remedying the pain they caused, it really helps them to be more empathetic and sympathetic towards another person's feelings. Now, when your child has a tantrum or is screaming at you, you can connect with them by acknowledging their feelings. I can see how angry you are. But, because they are emotionally out of control in that moment and not able to really hear you potentially, it's best if you limit what you say until they have calmed down. But stay present, stay calm, stay grounded, and let them know that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to cry. With screaming, you can say, I'm here to help you. When the screaming stops, then I can hear what you have to say. And you can also add, I can see that you're very angry, just acknowledging their feelings. Now, holding boundaries is big. Children's emotions are big. And our responsibility to support, our child through challenging behaviors is also really big. It's big for us. Parenting is big. It's hard. What I have found is that when we do this consistently, calmly, and with kindness, it really does get easier. Children need to be able to express how they feel. They need us to help them navigate this time in their life and to be a model for them. They want to know that despite any and all of their behaviors, they are still loved unconditionally. This is important, unconditional love. Tune in tomorrow for Seasonal Thursday. We'd love to have you connect with us on Instagram at we_nurture. And we're always so grateful when our listeners rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast because this helps us reach more parents. I'd also like to add that if you're looking for one-on-one parenting support, you can book a parenting coaching session with me at wenurturecollective.com. And we have a new children's book that you can purchase for your child. It's called The Three Little Deers and the Great Storm, and it's a companion storybook to episode 50 on our Stories for Children podcast. You'll find all the details on our website at wenurturecollective.com. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching.